I'm
Yeah,
Max
take it
MacLeod.
away.
I'm the executive director of A Better Life Foundation, which I hope some of you may have heard of. But perhaps if you haven't, you might have heard of Save on Meats. It's located on Hastings Street. It's got a 4-story giant neon pink flying pig that's been over Hastings Street since 1957. So it's quite a landmark in Vancouver, and I'm the co-owner of that. And I'm going to get right into the presentation, I suppose. So, Plenty of Plates is something that we created about 5 years ago. And as the slide says, it's a celebration of perspective over food. If some of you were in my session this morning, I talked about food as a connector, and certainly we're massive advocates for how we bring people together and break isolation for food. But the challenge that we had, I'll save the challenge actually for the next slide. What A Better Life Foundation does is, by connecting people through food, is we provide 1,500 meals every single day of the year, Christmas, all the major holidays, power outages, unfortunate fires happening, not within ourselves, but we are an emergency response for a lot of folks, especially in the more recent fires in the Downtown Eastside. We produce a lot of meals. We're one of, if not the largest independent provider of food in the neighborhood. A lot of the folks that we serve depend on these meals and don't have other reliable sources of food at all. So the meal that we provide them in that 1,500 is the kind of cornerstone of their health and nutrition, but as well as their socialization. The team that makes these meals is important to know that there's about 75% of our folks that work for A Better Life Foundation identify as having a barrier to employment. Those are things like mental and physical disabilities, criminal records, history of addictions, maybe no fixed address. Maybe they're suffering homelessness, and that can be very difficult to go through a lot of the job application process. So you can understand that reliability is critical. We can't be the people that offer folks in our community the meal that they depend on and then not be able to provide it, or provide it late, or provide it with lesser quality, where there's a lot of dignity in our food, and we're proud of that. So the standards are important. I say all this to set up one of our challenges. This is some pulled pork on sweet potato mash, by the way, and it's a delicious dish, and we did 1,500 of those. Just an example of the kind of food that we're producing. I apologize that my presentation isn't as flashy and picturesque as I would like it. It goes content, pictures, content to pictures. So maybe I should read the content and then discuss on the picture page. As a charity, like a lot of charities, we our budget's made through donations, and we are in the fortunate but also precarious position of depending on the kindness of strangers for the most part. But those strangers then become partners, and those partners allow us to do our work. Most of those partners are with large corporations, or when I say large, I mean corporations big enough to be able to make sizable donations. There's a very understandable and I think fantastic trend in corporate giving, where organizations want to touch and feel where their donations are going, where their resources are going. So, for example, let's say you're a relatively big accounting firm, and on Friday you make an announcement that, look, we just made a $10,000 donation to A Better Life Foundation. Everyone gives a round of applause, goes about their weekend, comes back on Monday, and doesn't have any identification with that. Doesn't make them feel better about the place they work. It was just kind of a factoid that was dropped on them. Whereas if they come in and they volunteer with us or any other any other organization that they support, they really have, a connection to it, and that improves retention and just employee experience, really helps them identify with their employer as a place to work, and And it was a great team building experience a lot of the times. But, and, you know, touching and feeling usually translates to volunteering or coming in through a workshop or ourselves going there. But volunteering is the bulk of how that's executed. And you could imagine, using the accounting firm as an example, dropping in an office full of accountants into our small team of about a dozen, got 20 people on the team, but 12 people working on a shift, and doubling their numbers with a bunch of accountants that are untrained and unprepared and, you know, not skilled in kitchen labor, helping them get out, helping us get 1,500 meals out isn't really much of a help, to be honest with you. It's, I mean, we got to show them how to hold a knife. They're going to, you know, grate some carrots and skin their knuckle, and we're going to administer first aid. We are able to do the work that we're doing with the team that we're doing. Folks, as I mentioned, are suffering barriers and kind of really need reliability more than they need variables. You know, throwing in that kind of monkey wrench into our well-oiled machine doesn't help anybody. So we had a challenge. There's also some of our team. The challenge is, you know, how do we essentially say yes and be able to bring value to our donors while giving them that hands-on experience, but not interrupting our regular way of doing business? Question more eloquently phrased is this. A couple of things that we realized it needed to be. The largest requests were for groups of 10 to 20 people, so it needed to be something that satisfied that. Had to be hands-on. It wasn't overly theoretical, and, you know, people didn't want to. Sometimes I think in-kind skills are really valuable, but it still didn't give people that hands-on touch. Like for accountants, for example, we've got lots of accounting problems that we could have folks tackle, and we've got lots of design opportunities and website building and all sorts of things that aren't inherently what we do, but that really gives the people volunteering it an experience in what they're already comfortable in, rather than that kind of shared experience into the work that we do. Most critically, it could not interfere with our meal production. It can't be something that we're doing that interrupts this well-oiled machine that the community and neighborhood has come to depend so much on. And of course, we wanted to bring value to donor. Obviously, it's a massive bonus if they have fun doing it. It's something that they want to do rather than a job or a chore. We've heard of other people, you know, donating at kind of more laborious or more busy work, and that doesn't seem to satisfy people. And of course, the cherry on top is if it can have real impact. So we put something together that we thought would satisfy all those things. And rather than participate in our regular meal production, we'd invite them in for a special event, a special dinner where they would make it. Their team would have hands-on tools and produce a wonderful, delightful 3-course meal made with all of the love and all of the teamwork. It checks all the boxes. It's teamwork for one, you know, it gets people outside of the comfort zone, but it also doesn't interfere with our regular operation. And as far as impact goes, it brings people to really see the folks that we're serving. And that is the beautiful thing that I have to admit was not done by design, but has become the driving force of why we do this event. Empathy building. This is something that a lot of corporations and firms and organizations and offices of all size are really trying to find ways to instill in their employees. How do we create empathy? And sorry, one second. Can we challenge stigma and bias around the folks that are living in our neighborhood? Creative problem solving. There's not always the direct path into making these dishes, although our facilitators are there to help them. Relationship building and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, I just saw Elizabeth Dunn in the chat. Elizabeth, so nice to see you. massive fan of Elizabeth's, and thank you for sharing that link. It's huge. And 5 years later, having done this, we've hosted 200 dinners and provided a dignified and different social experience, which is so unique in our neighborhood. There is lots of other options to get food. Admittedly, there's dinners and there's soup kitchens. This is not that. This is a chance for people to not just connect over food, but connect with the people serving it and having that real interpersonal connection. The impact is summarized there, and it actually really helps our daily operation. Has become actually one of the main drivers of our budget. It's been fantastic fun, and our community, as I say, comes for the food, but also certainly comes back for the personal connection. It's the challenge of bias and stigma around folks in our neighborhood is, of course, profound. We all have an image of what the Downtown Eastside looks like. This actually dispels a lot of the stereotypes and really humanizes the people we serve. And when we do that, we create advocates as well. That is essentially it. Our challenge was how do we do this? And I think we've matched it perfectly. And it's grown into something beautiful. And I'll leave it for any questions that we have in these short few minutes. Sorry for going over a little bit. I'm so excited Elizabeth was in the talk. That's so serendipitous.
Shirley had a couple awesome comments about how amazing the TED Talk was, and that she's actually eaten there with, and her family used to shop there every weekend when they first came to Canada. So that's amazing.
That's awesome, Shirley. I'm sure you did the Army, Navy, Save on Meats, and then the Woodward's trifecta. That's what everyone comes down for, and all of them, of course. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're still the last one operating as we were, but we're very proud to be operating. You know, since people are enthused, I didn't mean to have a plug, but usually teams and offices are usually the biggest driver, although we've had birthday parties and even a bar mitzvah once come participate. But tomorrow night, we have an individual one. Van City sponsored a community building event where people can sign up. If anyone's interested in joining us, we have just a few spots left before we're totally full. That's not really a plug. We're going to be going anyways, but because people seem to be enthused in it, we, happy to offer it there. If you want to email us and say that you'd like to, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow or in the future. But it's a ton of fun. I guess the other main thing is, like I said to my earlier point, these team building experiences that we had to create, we workshopped a couple ideas that weren't fun. They were impactful for sure, and they had all of the other emotions in it. But when we found the way to make it fun, that's when we really saw it take off. And now we've done, as I say, close to 200.
Does anyone have any last questions? I think Shirley was wondering how to get registered. Did she just email you? Is that right?
Yeah, just email me. Yeah, so dropping that email in the chat there, info@betterlifefoundation.ca is a great way to sign up. And Van City's been really kind and offered us a grant to do these quarterly. So if you can't make tomorrow, but you'd like to be on the list for the future, we'd love to have you.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Ash.
My pleasure.
To come by.
Yeah, great.
Next